The sort of special June 8th meeting of the City Plan Board. Mr. Castillo, would you call the roll, please?
Robert Ackerman.
Here.
Jason
Sanchez.
here.
Tina Certain. Nicholas Hill.
Here.
Joshua Ney.
Here.
Stephanie Sutton.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Do we have any changes to the agenda as presented? If not, Mr. Castillo, are you about to say something? No?
Just one quick comment. The agenda states approval of the minutes, but the minutes will be on the official meeting now.
Okay. That's fine. Thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved with removal of the approval of the minutes item.
Do I have a second, please?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak to the plan board on something that is not on our agenda tonight? Seeing none, we can begin with old business.
Old business, we have two items. Item number 2022-677, inclusionary zoning comprehensive plan amendment. This is where the city of Gainesville is requesting to amend the comprehensive plan's future land use element to change density bonus language and allow bonus provisions associated with inclusionary zoning efforts. The second item is 2022-679, inclusionary zoning amendments to the Land Development Code. This is where the city of Gainesville is requesting to amend the Land Development Code to provide regulations establishing inclusionary zone and amend the current bonus manual. These two items will be presented together, and I'll go ahead and make that presentation. Just gonna step down.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Juan Castillo. I'm a planner with the Department of Sustainable Development. And tonight I am bringing forward a previous item that we've discussed before, staff's recommendation for inclusionary zoning. This presentation will incorporate staff's recommendation for the amendment within the comprehensive plan, as well as staff's recommendation for amendments within our Land Development Code. So, as we know, this is an effort and a recommendation based on the HRNA report, which has outlined specific recommendations based on the market here in Gainesville. Now, a really quick overview as to inclusionary zoning. It is basically a land use tool that is designed to require new developments to provide affordable housing. The proposal that is that is before you this evening is a amendment to our Land Development Code that is requiring 10% affordable housing for 80% for people living within 80% AMI, and that is for units that are developments that are providing 10 units or more. There is a fee in lieu of that's being proposed, and that is in the case that a development, for whatever reason, cannot provide the affordable units as stated. There is a voluntary opt-in option for developments that are below 10 units, and they would be given the amendments, or the benefits if they provide affordable housing as the developments that are providing 10 units or more. The affordability term is 99 years or in perpetuity. As we went out into the community, there has been some discussions on that, which I will talk about later. Unit pricing will follow existing HUD guidelines, as well as ensure that each provided unit is identical to market rate units. That includes the type of material that's used to create those units, as well as any services that are offered with those units. The units that are affordable will be provided at the same time as the units that are market rate. So if a development comes online, all units will be provided for occupancy as opposed to market rates unit being available before the affordable units. And the affordable units will be dispersed equally throughout the development so that there's not a section within the development that is specific to affordable units. Everything will be dispersed equally. So as I mentioned, the proposal before you does incorporate a fee in lieu of. As we went out into the community, there were discussions and recommendations for the fee in lieu of to be removed. The recommendation from our consultants is to allow for the fee in lieu of to remain. This is a snapshot of different markets and the affordability levels that they are providing. Based on the market analysis of the consultants, HR&A, staff is recommending that the city of Gainesville require the required 10% of affordable units with a 30% set aside for 80% for people that are within 80% of AMI, and that is up to 80%. So previously, when this came before you, staff was recommending an amendment to the comprehensive plan that incorporated language within each land use that would allow for bonuses associated with inclusionary zoning. Now we are, we are proposing a portion of the language that in essence provides some flexibility, giving a range of 30% to 90%, and this is to incorporate the ability for voluntary, deeper affordability, which I will discuss later. As well with this recommendation, we are recommending that we remove the density bonus point manual currently found within our land development code and incorporate that manual within the provisions for inclusionary zoning and affordable housing program. So this is just a snip of the inclusionary zoning regulations that are being proposed. The full language is within your backup, but I just wanted you to get an idea of how that language will look and the section that that language is being applied to. So in recap, the proposal before you is for 10% of affordable housing for developments that are providing 10 units or more, targeting 80% AMI or up to 80% AMI. And this offset for that will be a 30% density bonus. As I mentioned, it's for developments that are providing 10 units or more. There is a fee in lieu of being proposed, and the cost of these new affordable units will follow HUD guidelines. Provided units will be comparable to market rate units, so they will be identical in the materials being used. They will be dispersed throughout the development, as well as they will include any services associated with the market rate units. I mentioned the deeper affordability provision with this recommendation, and this is the additional language. Basically, we are proposing to add language for developments that want to provide an even a deeper affordability in the sense of either increasing the affordable units available or decreasing the target AMI. To offset those deeper affordability levels, staff is proposing to provide 15% density bonuses increments for 10% interval changes. And the way that looks is, for example, if a development is providing 10 more affordable units from what's being required, they will receive a 15% density bonus increase. If they are providing, say, 70%, or if they're targeting, say, a 70% AMI, likewise, they will receive a 50% density bonus increase. This can be mixed and matched. So if they provide 10% more affordable units at 70% AMI, then they will receive a 30% density bonus increase. The maximum bonus increase that can be achieved is 90%. So the range of bonuses, bonus density offset will be from 30% to 90%. There are other benefits that staff are proposing. Some of them are, for example, 50% off any applications that are associated with affordable units, potentially tree mitigation fee reductions, and there are other benefits that are found within the report. Associated with this recommendation, there is a proposal made that incorporates changes to the transit zone to provide more density. And here's basically the proposal that was initiated and associated with staff's proposal. Staff is not recommending this per se, just wanted to make you aware that this is something that was brought before staff and bringing it before you. And this is also part of that language, which basically allows for additional setback flexibility when it comes to zones within the historical districts that would apply for developments that are incorporating inclusionary zoning, affordable housing. Again, this is not part of staff's recommendation. Just wanted to bring this before you so that you're aware that this is something that has come up before staff and that is being brought before you for your consideration. Public engagement has been carried out at the October 13th, 2022 Commission meeting. The Commission asked AHAC to lead a series of public engagement efforts, which they carried out. And these are the meetings that were carried out in January 23rd. AHAC went before East Gainesville Alliance at the Lincoln Middle School, received feedback, and presented the proposal before the people that attended that meeting. And just to not take up more time, but these are the other places that AHAC presented to and their dates. Aside from the meetings mentioned in the previous slide, these are also the regular meetings where AHAC discussed the inclusionary zoning provision that is before you. As far as non-AHAC public engagement that were carried out by staff, we have a city commission a city commission meeting at City Hall, and that is, of course, that date, October 13th, where the city commission directed AHAC to lead further public engagement efforts. This item came before you on October 17th, where we received feedback and direction. Then this item came back before you December 8th, where we received further feedback and further direction. Then this item came before the Gainesville Community Reinvestment Area Advisory Board. That was on March 21st of 2023. And lastly, this item came before the Alachua County Labor Coalition at the Emmanuel Mennonite Church, and that was on March 28th, 2023. Items from the Alachua County Labor Coalition and other recommendations can be found in your backup. And with that, I say thank you, and I am here and available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Castillo. Questions for staff?
I'm wondering why we chose to have a third party administer this, why the developers are having to do that, why that's not like staying like in-house with the city, with their housing department or something.
So that's a good question, Mr. Nave. I may, Mr. Chair, that is something that staff has reviewed. If the commission wants to make it an in-house item, of course, they certainly have the power to do so. Some of the things that we've heard back from reaching out to developers is that this would not be a burdensome action for them to reach out to a third party. And we have had some third party organizations say that they'd be willing to carry out this effort. Direction from the commission and also recommendation from the HRA consultant groups have stated that it's advisable to do a third party in order to be able to oversee the provision of affordable housing units within this recommendation. So that's kind of where we're at right now. If the board pleases and would like to recommend for the city to adopt this and to manage it, you know, you're within your, of course, within your power to do so.
Yeah, I'm just worried it'll be a bunch of different third parties doing it. And I mean, we're supposed to be making sure it's been happening anyway. So I feel like it should be, I don't know how the other members feel about that.
And this is something that has come up before. We have explored that, you know, that direction, but the feedback that we received is for a third-party organization to oversee it.
Ms. Sutton?
Yeah, I think I gave some of that feedback previously. This, and I think my thinking on it has changed a little bit. I think the direction that I'm headed this evening is actually potentially raising the number of units from 10 units or more up to like 30 units or more or 50 units or more, because this is a lot of work for a development that's only going to have 1 or 2 affordable units. I know that your backup, you sort of alluded to, oh, it was so easy for CA Ventures. They just put this together. But I would challenge you to get a copy of Pat Boyce's legal bill to put that together. And that's a big expense for a small developer on a small project. And not having, you know, an easy template solution and go to this city office and they'll help you put this together, but having to chase down a third party. I've been involved with one of these projects. You know, we had to go to a board meeting of the housing authority and all of, I mean, it's complicated. It's not easy. I can tell you from experience, it's not easy. Is it impossible? No. For, you know, a big developer, can they handle it? Yes. But can, you know, maybe someone who's put a couple, you know, lots together and wants to do a small 12 unit, you know, building, is it a lot of work for them? For what will be one affordable unit? Yes. So I think the city, you know, given circumstance, is probably not going to have that capability in-house. So like I said, I think my thinking has come around to we need to raise this base number of units to make it worth it and to make it bigger projects that have the resources to go through that process and hire an attorney and, you know, kind of sort through all of that. So that's my current thought on that, and that's not necessarily a question for you on, but I do have a couple questions for you. I was wondering, this section on occupancy limitation, I didn't remember this, section 30-4.11. I don't remember that being in here previously, and maybe it was and I missed it, but I'm just curious where that's coming from. I don't know if you have a copy of that in front of you, but it has to do with, you know, an increase in the number of persons occupying a dwelling beyond one family as defined by the chapter. And that's been a part of our conversation with occupancy limits, you know, elsewhere in the code, that I think in general our board was in support of removing those. Now they're coming back, but I think there's going to be conversation around that. And so this occupancy limitation was just another place that we're putting something similar in the code. And I don't remember that being there before, but maybe I was caught up on so many of the other issues that I missed it. So can you tell me a little bit of your thinking behind that section?
Sure. Originally, when this came before you, part of the, and just to clarify, EZ is not IZ, exclusionary
yes.
zoning. Yeah, just for, but when this came before you, there was also the exclusionary zoning kind of working through the ranks, if you will. Part of the recommendation for exclusionary zoning was to remove the occupancy limit recommendation, which was the 4.10 or this originally section 30-4.10 was originally the occupancy limit section. So what, of course, as you're well aware, that has been rescinded, and now we have everything that was within exclusionary zoning previously is kind of come back. So in essence, section 30-4.10 is back. So we have the occupancy limit being reinstated.
No, 11 is the one I was curious about.
Right, so
Okay.
so what we are proposing is to add the provisions for affordable housing right before the provision for occupancy limit. So instead of the occupancy limit being 4.10 now, it would be 4.11. And 4.10
Oh,
will
so
be,
it's just moving it down.
it's just moving it down, right?
Okay, because it's underlined like it's new.
Right, because the placement of it is
It's just the
completely
number
new.
really should have been underlined, not all the text. You didn't change all the text, you just changed the number.
Right, so originally we were proposing to, or we were showing that it was eliminated, so now
Okay.
we're showing that it's not. But I can see the confusion.
Yeah, so then probably, in taking this forward to the commission, I would recommend just underlining the number so that they don't think that this is all new, because it doesn't relate, because the applicable districts are single-family districts, and it just kind of, it seems out of place, but what you're really doing is just renumbering. Okay. I think I had one more question. Let me look through here. Oh, I think I just had some questions about the fee in lieu, and I knew, it says it will reflect the going market rate, but like HUD has that number somewhere, like you're gonna get that from a federal agency, or where is that number coming from? Who's determining that at the city, what that rate is?
So that's a great question. I don't know if I can fully answer that right now. I believe it's HUD, but don't quote me on that.
I mean, this says, it's up there now, and it says per HUD guidelines. I just don't know. I mean, I've never, obviously this would be new to the city. I've never encountered that, and so I'm not sure if that's just a federal document you reference, but I would be curious how we're determining that fee, because clearly across the country, the cost of a unit is going to be very different.
Right.
And based on the average size of the unit within any development, it might be different. So I would imagine maybe there's a table that has like 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, and you figure out the average for the development, and then you charge that rate. I want to understand a little bit more of how the fee in lieu would work.
Right, there is a document that does outline those prices. That is through HUD. The way this is designed is that those numbers will be reevaluated every 2 years. So those numbers are meant to, again, to just reflect the pricing in the market. We are quoting HUD as using the HUD guidelines, but again, that can.
So I think I'm just uncomfortable with that, because I'd like to know more about, like, if it is a HUD document, how often does HUD update it? Is it only every 5 years or every 10 years? Then it doesn't do us any good to look at it, every 2 years. I would be curious if it's a regional number. Like, I would just encourage you to look into that a little bit more. If we're looking at an outside, agency to determine that fee. I think that's most of my questions. I have some other thoughts, but.
Mr. Hill?
Thanks, Juan. Just a question for you, 2 questions actually. Notice if it voluntary affordable units are provided, 50% off their submitted application. Is that the application fee?
Correct.
Okay. And the second one, often associated with inclusionary zoning, one of the flexible provisions that I've seen provided in the past is decreased parking requirements. Was that investigated at all, or was that talked about?
Yeah, so that was investigated, but the city eliminated parking requirements. So we don't have any parking requirements as of right now.
Gotcha. For you, one all the ways through DT in the transect districts?
Right, and also in the regular inclusion zone as well.
Gotcha. That's it.
I have a couple of questions. One, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. That's me. I'll go next.
Okay.
I found one more thing.
I agree with Ms. Sutton that the whole procedure needs to be regularized in some fashion. Her idea is that we go to big developers, you bump it up, and then let them pay for it. I'm not crazy about that for a number of reasons. One is it means that the city attorney, I assume, is going to be going through potentially different agreements on a regular basis. And I would rather have the city develop a standard agreement, and that would also eliminate the problem Ms. Sutton sees with the expense of doing this. But I'm concerned that if we turn this over to third parties and let everybody negotiate their own deal, we end up with a way different product depending on who's negotiating what. And it seems that, like, we need to do this in a much more standardized format. And that'll also eliminate, going to the city attorney. It'll also, basically, it cuts out a whole lot of extra work by making something routine rather than every single thing being new and unusual. Anybody?
If I may, so the intention behind creating that agreement between a third party and the provision that's being before you today is in essence is just for the enforcement of the requirement that is before you. So each development will be required to provide 10%. That won't change. Each development will get a 30% set aside, or basically an offset, not set aside, for the provision of the 10% affordable housing units. That won't change. So the third party would come in and just make themselves responsible for the enforcement of that requirement. If a developer wants to, of course, provide a deeper affordability, I can see some variations there, but those deeper affordabilities will be specifically outlined within the language. And so if the development wants to provide more affordable housing units or at a deeper AMI, that will be outlined within the language that's before you.
Yeah, I understand that. I guess it seems to me like we should develop a standardized contract for that based on the amount of additional density that they're going to get in lieu of, as a result of providing affordable housing. Ms. Sutton, save me.
So I think part of the challenge here is the city needs that third party to identify the tenants that are going to come in and qualify them and guarantee that the people in these units are qualified and coming off of a list. And so the city can't do that in-house. So that's where they need the third party. They need the city housing authority, the county housing authority, somebody to do that. And I get that. But part of my thought, and this is sort of my thoughts have evolved on increasing that number, is it's a lot of effort even for those third party agencies for one unit in one development. Because I'm telling you, I've done this. You have to go to their board meetings multiple times. It's a lot of effort for them too. Their legal counsel and their board have to review these agreements. And for one unit, that's a lot of work on these taxed, agencies trying to provide assistance to people. I don't know that it's worth all of their time either, let alone the developer having to pay, their own attorney. But for the third parties, I think we need to make it worth their time, since we're making them do the work for the city. The city's not going to have the capacity in-house. We're putting it on these third parties. I want to make it worth it for them. And one unit in a small development, we're asking for a lot of favors from these agencies for those one units. And so that's part of my thinking in bumping this up too. I don't think that the city has the capacity in-house. I don't think in the current budget situation we're going to get the capacity in-house at the city. And so I think, we do need to rely on these agencies. They're the ones that have the housing list. They're the ones that are managing vouchers and placing people and have wait lists. So it does sort of make sense to do that. But there's a scale, there's a level of scale that makes it worth everyone's time. And I don't think a 10-unit development with one affordable unit is that. I think we've got to get up to 30 units, 50 units. That's where my head is currently at. Because it's a lot of work for everybody for one unit. And then, moving forward, it's a lot of tracking to just have one unit in a development. And that actually, I had one other question as well that I flipped through and found. So there, in the enforcement section, and this kind of comes around to that tracking you know, we're saying that there's gonna be a $500 fee per unit per each day. That, you know, basically the owner's providing less affordable housing than the percentage required. Anyone in sort of the rental market can tell you that units aren't occupied every single day, right? There's a turn time. So one person moves out, you know, they have to clean the unit, repaint, replace the carpet, whatever they're doing. To fix it up, I want them to sort of have a bit of leeway there. I don't like this $500 fee per day that someone's not in that unit, because there is a natural gap between tenants that I think we need to somehow account for there. Because even if you have it empty a week, and a turn time of a week's fast, that's a significant fee, right? I mean, you get to $3,500 in 1 week that you're just trying to get it fixed up for the next tenant. So I think we also need to look at that enforcement and word it a little bit differently and provide some, a little bit of grace for those turn times.
Sure. And if I may, one of the asks, of course, is from some direction on that. The intention behind the language is not to penalize an unnecessarily empty unit, but rather to make sure that 10% of the units are still being provided for affordable, as opposed to 9% or 8%. So we just want to make sure that all the affordable units are accounted for as being affordable. And, it is my understanding as well that we have a huge waiting list, so that may also be of help. But that's the intention behind it. If there is better language to clarify that, we would be welcome to it.
Did we pull this from another code somewhere, or how did we come up with this? Is that standard, a $500 per day?
We did look at other municipalities, right, for some of the language and some of the penalties associated with it.
Okay, because I think we need a little bit of grace period for turns.
Again, it seems like we're concentrating on the 10-unit building rather than the 150-unit building. Because theoretically, all of those apartments are going to be available for affordable housing. So we're not necessarily identifying a specific one, so that if somebody moves out, that if there's another unit that's empty, and that they should be able to fill that. I guess my other, I understand the third party is there to provide tenants. I mean, I know the Gainesville Housing Authority has a very long waiting list. And I guess to some extent, they're going to be vetting approximate income, the income issues, so that you know that you're meeting the requirements. But I don't like the idea that every single project is going to end up, it's going to be the Lawyer Relief Act. Everybody gets to draw their own agreement, and as we all know, the city attorney does not have a rapid turnaround. So I don't want to see a whole bunch of stuff stuck in the city attorney's office while they negotiate each individual contract. Anyway, that's my own thing. I have one other question and a different issue. I must have missed it. I want to thank you for notifying us we had this meeting. It didn't make my calendar until this morning. I didn't know about it. I'd forgotten about it. Anyway, I skimmed all of this stuff, and of course I've read it the last couple of times we've had it. I'm not crazy about the fee in lieu. In areas that we've done that, like the tree mitigation fund, what are we going to do with this money if everybody starts pouring it in? Right now, the tree mitigation fund just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and we never seem to have any use for it.
So two things have been proposed. The first is that it would go into a sort of an affordable housing fund, where the city would be able to use this money to provide more affordable housing somewhere else. The second one has been suggested that the funds be used to help offset some of the costs for individuals to be able to afford the affordable housing units. If they, for whatever, fall within the AMI, and those are some of the funds that can kind of,
So use it to subsidize and further reduce the
that has
ability
been,
of people.
right, that was one of the suggestions.
I guess I wouldn't object to that. I'm a little uncomfortable about the city doing affordable housing in general because I don't think they've ever been very good at it. I wouldn't mind, using it to subsidize so that you can get a wider range of income levels in there. That's all I have for a minute. Anybody else have anything for Mr. Castillo? Seeing none, I guess we'll open it to the public. And if you'd please just state your name and.
My
Mr.
name
Brown.
is Khalid Blount, and somebody left you a present back there, Mr. Chair. I guess it's like bringing in an apple for the teacher. So first I want to strongly agree with you about the payment in lieu of, because what you end up with is what Gainesville Housing Authority has now for the property it sold in Fifth Avenue neighborhood, a place where the residents had all kinds of necessary amenities. That's an oxymoron. It's not. These are essentials, period. Good education, both grade schools and higher education, employment, good markets, transportation nodes. So they will be fighting NIMBY forever to find another site with all those amenities to use the money they have sold that land for, the land upon which they had promised they would build subsidized housing again. So, but I want to please beg all of you to look at Urban Land Institute, I think it's uli.org, and National Low Income Housing Coalition, where you will easily find both case studies and scholars' research that's been in refereed journals about inclusionary zoning and why it's necessary. The city and county budgets total couldn't build enough affordable units. They have to somehow get the private market to be involved. But you'll find in those sources why 10% never changed anything anywhere. It's been 20%, 30% in the successful cases and the theoretical research. And the AMI, percent area median income, needs to be down at 50%, or you're not even touching the bulk of the need. That is the greater part of that N, where N is population who are rent stressed. So this is just going to skip this weak effort. It's an effort. I'm glad it's going to go ahead with it, but it is a weak effort because of those two measures. And that's necessary. Without that, you don't get real transformation. And what we need, we don't just need affordable units. We need to deal with location. We need to deal with the fact that we have economically segregated housing, which is today proxy for racial segregation that became illegal 2 generations ago. But it is still segregation. And we see people paying the price, children particularly, of having vast areas of deep poverty. That pattern, that housing pattern, is what this board has to pay attention to, not just how many units, but where are they? You see, the civil rights movement fell asleep, or, oh, there's no timer running? You should have given me a
We
timer.
apparently aren't running the time.
Juan's not up here to run it for us, so.
Okay, one more point.
But take another minute, okay?
Okay, the civil rights movement kind of rocked itself to sleep, or maybe was shocked to sleep, after school desegregation. That was baby step one, just to get two groups accustomed to each other's company without immediate violence. That was the only thing that came out of that. And even that was something, was risking something. Zora Neale Hurston got in trouble in 1955 for saying that black children were going to suffer under desegregation for losing teachers that had high expectations and a network of home, church, and family. Home, teacher, and family. So, but something was asked of the white community as well, is to get accustomed, to get over the phobias and fears of a falsely learned past, and maybe find out that poor whites and poor blacks all have the same interests. So housing desegregation was the next big brick that was supposed to come.
King's Poor People's Campaign on Washington was about closing the gap, and that meant housing desegregation. And maybe that's why what happened to him. So I urge y'all to take a chance. I hope nobody's shooting at you. But we're looking for real transformative things. The number of units and the healing of a lot of past stuff. The county commission made a big mistake last fall when they tried to just eliminate single-family zoning, because they ignored the fact that what's going to immediately fill in is with the hot button happening now. You see student duplexes and fourplexes and eightplexes going up all over Fifth Avenue neighborhood and Porter's. And that would have happened, that would have started happening in all the single-family neighborhoods because they neglected to say anything about price point or family-oriented design when they decided to knock down single-family housing. So I hope y'all will be their guidance and urge them to do something stronger than this proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Blount. Ms. Silva.
Hi, Tana Silva. Props to Khalid for his remarks, and I would like to add that Pleasant Street now is being overrun with Airbnbs and $500,000 home sales. So some things.
You understand the state has preempted us on regulating Airbnb.
I understand that. I'm just saying, yeah, the neighborhoods are kind of not what they were. And I so appreciate Members Sutton and Ackerman, your volunteering your experience and your insights and your willingness to dig into the real details on a ground level of what the implications are for all of this. I can't even read what I wrote. So I do have some questions also about how the city can require fees in lieu if state law says the city has to compensate developers for new units at less than market rate. And the figure presented to the city commission at some point was $160,000. I don't know where that comes from per unit. And if that, for example, was what a developer could claim as compensation, then what, the city would have to pay them $160,000 a unit? Okay.
Well, keep in mind, the whole concept of this proposal is to craft an ordinance that gets around the state restrictions on requiring it, and so we're trying to incentivize it to a great extent.
Right, but if a developer doesn't want the incentives, doesn't want increased density, then they would have to pay a fee in lieu. So that's, I don't know, I don't really understand how it's supposed to work. And as far as the, who's going to administer all of this, I think it's going to come down to a cost to the city any way you look at it, whether it's the housing authorities or what other entities. And I think it's an excellent idea to raise the number of units to 30 because it's just going to be an added cost and burden for everybody, the city included. And another question I have is, when they're figuring the cost burden of 30% for housing, above that is the cost burden, that it also includes technically utilities. So how is a developer supposed to figure, how much lower he would have to make a rent to fall into that category, including the utilities? And finally, Archer Place was kind of an experiment, I guess, in inclusionary zoning, but it had some strange factors in it. The binding agreement did not match the ordinance. A set-aside unit that wasn't leased within 60 days would go back to market rate, and all kind of weird things that the questions never seem to get answered. But also it and CA Ventures, for example, are going to be these bed bath units basically for students. And how is that going to be tracked? I mean, if you can lease by the bedroom, then, who decides?
Theoretically, the third party, which would be in a great, is the Gainesville Housing Authority.
So one unit, the unit itself would be set aside as affordable, and then when they could get enough leases at the whatever rate, then it could be, am I not making sense about that?
I'm missing that in your
Okay,
out of time.
the Bed Bath, the single room occupancy units, if they're leased by the bedroom, then that pretty much eliminates any family that would be able to rent the place. If they're leasing by the bedroom, then, as the student apartments do these days. So I think that would add a complication to deciding who gets to lease the unit and for how much. So I'm glad that you are probably not going to accept the commissioners and the General Policy Committee's suggestions about increasing the density in all the transect zones and let's see, whatever the General Policy Committee recommendation was. To put it on the city staff to carry the burden for administering all of this. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Don't be shy. Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for discussion or a motion. Mr. Nay.
I do agree that the number of units needs to go up, because 10 is really low. I was reading through the backup, and you presented it a little bit, that about 25 feet outside of a historic area, like, I don't know if other people are interested in that part of it, because, I mean, I feel like we're gonna miss out on all kinds of development that could happen in University Avenue between 13th Street and 6th Street.
Yeah, the north side of University Avenue is right up against a
Historic district.
historic district.
Right, and there's that old rundown, like,
The Little Champ.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
right
old
where the
champ.
Checkers is and the Taco.
Nothing's
the
gonna
taco
get
place.
built there, and that land's worth a lot of money. So I think having that as part of the inclusionary zoning package would also help.
You done, Mr. Nay?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
I just ran.
Mr. Hill?
Yeah, I was curious. I wondered if I could get clarification on how the 80% AMI was chosen. I see in the backup the precedents for
It's 30 to 80%.
30 to 80%. Okay. Because, yeah, a lot of these are much lower than 80%, the 9 case studies that were chosen. So I was just curious.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, yeah, go ahead.
I apologize. So the 80%, you're referring to the 80% AMI requirement. That was based on the recommendations from the HRNA consultants. There is just something to clarify. There is for deeper affordability, there is a range of 30%, and I think there is a typo where it mentioned 30% to 80% within your backup. That's supposed to read 30% to 90%, and that's to incorporate the, excuse me, the ranges of the 10% provision with 15% bonus density set us.
I'm sorry, I don't understand what you just said.
So
We've bumped the income requirement up to 90%?
No. So addressing Member Hill's question concerning the 80% requirement, that's based on the recommendations from the HRNA report. I took the moment to then address a typo within your backup that mentions a range for more density based on deeper affordability provisions.
Right.
And that range erroneously states that it's 30% to 80%. That range is supposed to read 30% to
Okay.
90%.
We're talking about apples and oranges here.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
apologize
okay.
for the confusion.
Mr. Hill, did you get your question answered? Yeah, all right, thank you. Anybody else? Ms. Sutton?
Well, I just had one more thought on the, I agree with the issue on University Avenue, but I don't think that we should tie it into this. I think, it's a transect zone that could have a number of uses. I think we should take that out of, it shouldn't be required to have necessarily, it shouldn't be required to be a housing apartment building to get, I think we need to address the height there in a different way, because we have an existing hotel, right? If we wanted to build another newer, nicer hotel, it's a great place for that near campus. But they wouldn't get this benefit, only housing would, essentially. If someone wanted to put an office building there, I think that's great too. So I think we need to address that issue, but I don't like the idea of looping it in with the inclusionary zoning and only like waiving the height buffer zone if they're doing affordable housing. I think we should just address that in another way, personally. I'm not crazy about, I'm also not crazy about just lifting the overall densities. Generally, I think that we should give, sort of the increase for the additional affordable housing units. In the cases, what we've seen coming through the board, in most cases, when people have wanted the additional density, and we've had a handful of these now, they've come in and offered us the affordable housing because they
Right.
sort of know it's of an interest to the city. So we know that if they're trying to go beyond, we can get the affordable housing. We've been doing it through the PD format. I kind of like just kind of building in what we've sort of been doing by default the last few years into the code, and you kind of get the bonus for doing the affordable housing, and you don't have to go through PD and come to us. But I don't know that raising the base level, I mean, I guess some of it depends on the number that we pick here too, and I'm inclined to raise it from 10. So it's all, we can debate that, but I'd prefer to just have the bonus and not increase the base density.
Okay, here we are. Does anybody think we're ready to pass this as an ordinance and offer it? Then-
No.
Then how about if we give some direction of what we need when it comes back?
Forrest, did you want to talk?
No.
Okay.
The first answer. That's the first answer. But I thought it appropriate just to say, it will be helpful for staff if you all can get closer to some of these hard numbers that you have talked about. And that will allow us to go and look at other jurisdictions that use that exact number and see what the outcome is. And a variety of other things. That lets us hone as professional staff the data that we can get back to you to make a better decision.
Okay. Do you want to start?
I'll start. I would say, raising the base number of units where this would apply, in my mind, either 30 or 50 makes sense instead of 10. And maybe you all can do some research and see, is there a common point other than 10, higher than 10? Do a large number of cities end up at 25 or 50 or whatever it is? I would also really like more information on how you're going to calculate the fee in lieu. Do some research on what HUD provides, what their tables are. Is it regional? Is it by number of bedrooms? How are we going to determine that fee in lieu? I think we need to have a little bit more information. I also echo Bob's concern about where's this money going and what are we doing with it. I agree the city is not the best, developer of affordable housing. So, but if we're going to be developing a program that's going to essentially offer some kind of grants to people, that's all going to require staff time and management too, that the city may or may not have. So that needs to be thought through a little bit, the whole fee in lieu program. I'm not completely opposed to it, but I need to know a lot more about it. My thinking is sort of moved towards the third party needing to be involved. Initially, I was a big proponent for having this within the city, but I don't think we're going to have the capacity in the city. And so, but I do think we have to have the higher number of units to make it worth their while, and definitely coming up with a template agreement There's a couple of them floating around now, and maybe we can take the best of all of them and roll it together. And having a template agreement is a good idea. And maybe that even is like, I know that you put the CA Ventures stuff in the backup, but maybe instead of the specific CA Ventures stuff, we have the attorney's office come up with a template agreement. Because I agree with Ms. Silva that, there's certain conditions written into each of them that we may not agree with, right? So let's come up with a template that lacks those things. And then I also want to protect people from this, like, you can't have, any unit without a person in it or get a $500 fee somehow. So if you guys can look at that, those are my big points, I think.
I think those are great points and are very helpful to staff. And then, of course, I think that's exactly what the City Commission is asking for you all to ask for and vet right now.
Mr. Castillo?
If I may, just a point. So the 10% unit provision, again, comes from the recommendations from HR&A Consultant Group, which have done a market study for our market specifically. I think we can recommend a higher number, but as staff, we would now be basically relegated to look at other municipalities and try to come up with something that's remote to that 30 or 50, but not really based on any more analysis than what has been provided.
Yeah, we have local data, and then of course there's data outside of our jurisdiction that we use as well.
So another thing, and this comes from some of Mr. Bond's comments. Another thought that just kind of came to me is, what if we looked at, maybe from, 30 to 75 units, we require 10% affordable, and then if you get 75 to, 150, you've got to do 15%, and above 150, you've got to do 20% or something like that. Like, the bigger your project, the more you have to provide. I would be open to something like that too, and that might help you make up the gap from not hitting all the little projects.
I think those are certainly things that we can assess. A sort of practical caveat without knowing the actual answer to it, that our highest density areas in a lot of cases have the smallest parcels, and so the overall effectiveness of this would be something that really staff would have to look at on a very localized level, to some extent. But we would also be able to look at, how other jurisdictions deal with this exact same question. We're not the only jurisdiction with small parcels in their downtown and things like that. So this is certainly something that we can look at and both try to do our best with our localized data that we have, and then look to other jurisdictions for what they're doing.
Mr. Sanchez?
I actually have a question for you guys. How do other jurisdictions deal with like the small units, like the 10%, the 10 unit? Because I think if we knew that, maybe that would put some of the board members at ease if we could see examples of that, of that process. If it's not, it sounds like a huge pain in the butt. I mean, and we don't want that to be the process moving forward for this. Otherwise, it's going to be a failure. So I think if we could see or get some, some documentation of how other municipalities have created a process for smaller, for smaller number of units, that might go a long way to easing our concerns.
So I can give you a general understanding from, a professional planner perspective for what's going on across the country, which is that all jurisdictions are struggling with this question right now.
That's not reassuring.
In a very short answer. So, in that way, immediately, that's a big challenge for us as the city of Gainesville to try to come up with on our own. And I don't think that that's actually what I'm trying to say. But also, it does provide you all a lot of opportunity to suggest what is the best path forward to the future, and we get to be sort of the standard setter in this. You know, Gainesville is not, it's both unique and not. We are a college town, we are Gainesville, and we are not the only place that is being faced with housing shortages. You all know that. We're certainly not the only college town that is being faced with this, and where we need to obviously house students, but also our population and our growing population as well. So you're asking great planning questions, and we relish as staff to be able to dive into those more and in more detail. What, again, is helpful for us is, rather than this large, broad, nebulous question that the entire country is dealing with right now, having presented some of these things to you all, where would you like the city's staff resources focused at this point in time? Is it to look at the number of units? Is it to look at the percentage of affordability? Is it something else? And we can do, you know, a variety of those all at the same time, but sometimes it's more helpful and more effective if we can get a really honed, narrow pursuit.
Actually, from what I hear, we want you to look at the number of units. I'm not sure that, you know, I think that might be easier than not. For me, it's really important how we administer this program, and how we keep track of that. And I would like to know something more realistic or more definitive about what happens to the fee in lieu, and see if we have some way of dealing with that. I had one more, but I've forgotten. What were the three things you did?
Those are all 3 points we can pursue, and then I'm
Okay.
sure there's the fourth one we'll pursue also.
Okay. I'll call you. Mr. Castillo.
Sure, just kind of to add on to Director Elton's point, and also to just state that what we have, it's again just based specifically on our market. When we look at other municipalities and their provisions for, you know, how many affordable housing units they provide, they're doing so specific to their markets. And the reason behind that, or at least from what we've analyzed, is that they want to create a balance of a developer providing affordable housing units and not deterring development. And so just understand that when we look at these numbers, that's kind of what we're looking at is.
Well, keep in mind that this is really an extension of what the plan board's been doing for several years with the 10% affordable housing. You know, we've been kind of doing it on most of these large developments, and it's gotten to the point now where most of those large developments voluntarily do that. No, you don't even have to ask them. And I think that has been a pretty good program, but I wouldn't mind having it institutionalized, but I don't want to make it less effective by doing that.
Yep. Staff hears you. I think Gainesville is the apples and everything else is the oranges. And we can do our best to make the oranges make sense for Gainesville.
Okay. Do I have a motion to continue this until we get more information?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to continue this with staff coming back with a little bit more information on the 4 items.
Yeah,
that
would
we've
you,
discussed.
just for the record, please list the 4?
So looking into the number of units that this would apply to, looking into how the fee in lieu would work, how it's going to be calculated, looking into
The
the
management.
process
Yeah.
and the administration.
Right.
I do think that most the bigger cities who have this and it's working have it handled in-house by their housing department. And I don't think we have that ability here, unfortunately. So we have to figure out a system that will work for Gainesville to administer this properly, because it's really important that it doesn't fail. And so I want all that sorted out as much as possible on the front end. I also think we're gonna have these other units coming online, and so we'll be able to kind of learn through that process. So that administration kind of covers, like, you know, maybe having a template agreement and, you know, thinking about the third-party relationship being standardized. I think that
Yeah.
covers most of it.
Now, you could probably tell us, I know we've got at least 2 or 3 developments that must be nearing completion. Do we have any report on how they're gonna deal with that? I know we've got agreements in place.
Not at this date. I think the developments that you're thinking of are, you know, still in construction and they are being leased actively. So we don't have specific
Okay,
data on the percentage of leases and things like that, but they are being constructed. They are being leased right now, and at least at this point, they are operating under the agreement that their development order allows them to operate under.
okay. Anything else? We have a motion to continue. Does anybody have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to continue. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Why'd you look at me, Bob?
Mr. Castillo, I assume we'll continue the second, the
Yeah, do we need another
LDR
motion?
part 2, yeah, okay. Okay, then let's move on to new business, please.
New business item 2023-534, LD 23-000001. It's a lot of zeros. This is a well-filled special use permit swimming pool supply distribution warehouse. The request is for a well-filled special use permit to establish a swimming pool supply distribution warehouse at a location within the Murphy Wellfield Protection Zone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. Jason Simmons, planner with the Department of Sustainable Development. These are just some random street shots of the location of the proposed use on North Main Terrace. The location specifically is 3335 North Main Terrace. The site is approximately or just under 1 acre in size, has currently industrial land use and general industrial or I2 zoning. So what they're requesting and what they're proposing is the establishment of a swimming pool supply distribution business with an above-ground chlorine tank. And under section 30-3.28 of the Land Development Code, it requires that all new and existing developments within the primary, secondary, and tertiary wellfield protection zones that will intensify, expand, or modify a use directly associated with the storage of hazardous material, obtain a wellfield protection special use permit to ensure compliance with the comprehensive plan and the Alachua County Murphy Wellfield Protection Code. So the proposed establishment, we're classifying as wholesale trade because it primarily serves other businesses. It is a use by right within the I2 zoning district. However, they are proposing to store hazardous materials. Thus, we're here to request the wellfield special use permit. You see the property outlined here. It's in a block that's all I2 with industrial land use. Across the street from it is land with PS or public service and operations zoning. This is the city's public works yard located here off 39th Avenue. Again, a map just showing this location. There is residential nearby, some new houses. This used to be strictly a mobile home subdivision, but you have some houses that have recently been constructed in this area. This to the right, it's not really a site plan, it's more like a floor plan that also shows some of the parking on the site. Here's the proposed location of the bleach tank, although I've come to understand that they're flexible as far as the location goes, which I'll get into more when we get to the conditions. This is North Main Terrace here, and this is pointing north. This is the aerial shot of the location. You see areas up here, the residential areas up here. You see the public services to the west and the block here. This is the subject property where the arrow's pointing. And the special use permit is to establish a pool equipment distribution business. This is located in the tertiary zone of the Murphy well field. The subject property, there are two buildings on the site. Both are sort of warehouse storage type buildings. The proposal includes the installation of an above-ground chlorine tank. This proposal has been reviewed by Alachua County Environmental Protection Department, and they have recommended approval. Other materials, hazardous materials to be stored on the site include hydrochloric acid, sulfuric acid, and calcium hypochlorite, which all will be stored inside the warehouses. Trichlor tablets will also be present. They can be stored inside or outside, but most likely would be stored on the inside. This is I guess a schematic drawing of the proposed exterior chlorine storage tank. It will be stored outside of the warehouse buildings. The maximum amount to be stored would be 1,900 gallons. The storage tank would have a 2,150-gallon containment tank built around it. Both the bleach tank and the containment tank would be secured to the pavement by cable and anchor. Again, the county has reviewed this and has recommended approval. You see it would be constructed on a pad with a brick foundation, and then the two containment tanks. Because of the fact that we don't have a site plan and they're showing a proposed location for the tank, staff is not certain whether the proposed location meets the front setback requirements for the I-2 zoning district, which is 25 feet. We don't have measurements at this time of or dimensions of the overall property. So that leads to the staff recommended conditions on the property. That one, they provide dimensions on a site plan or survey showing the distance of the proposed tank from the nearest property lines. And two, that the location of the proposed bleach tank must meet the applicable setback requirements for the I-2 zoning district. Again, after talking with the applicant, after I sent them the staff report, they didn't seem to have an issue with moving the tank if need be. I think they have some flexibility, and the idea was mainly to get the welfare special use permit and then figure out the best location on the site for the tank location. So with that, staff recommends approval of petition LD 23-000001 with the staff conditions. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions that you might have at this time. I believe there is a representative from the business here tonight to answer any questions that you might have about what they're proposing.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Questions for staff from the board? Mr. Simmons, as I understand, I mean, we've approved one of these up on North 441. The containment systems are pretty standard, I think. The double containment, is that accurate?
Mr. Chairman, I'm unfortunately not an environmental specialist. I believe it is a common method of containing,
Right.
spills. If a spill happens, you have the
Well,
containment tank.
that's the double tank, is
Right.
that the container tank bursts, then it stays in the secondary
Yes.
tank.
And that's as far as my understanding
And
goes.
a big yellow cloud passes over somebody. Okay. Any questions for Mr. Simmons? Mr. Edelton apparently is gonna.
I think the
say
only
something.
thing that I would add is that we do involve GRU and the Alachua County Environmental Protection Department, which includes the hazmat division, to review things like this to beyond what Jason and I know are a hazard.
Which apparently isn't much.
Which isn't a whole lot. We get it to you guys. But yes, they have reviewed it, are aware of it. It's a part of their system. It's been incorporated, and it will be inspected going forward.
So we could add as an additional requirement is that they get approval from Alachua EPD.
That's already happened.
Okay. I know they've already got it, but they haven't built it yet. So does Alachua EPD go back out and say, yeah, this looks good?
They do. The city, our staff does not specifically require that, but as the managers of our development review process, we have the ability, and we do say and require that, hey, if you have not gotten the okay from Alachua County Hazmat, which are our colleagues, then we are uncomfortable moving forward.
Okay, so you don't think it's necessary for add that as a condition of the special use permit?
We've gotten the okay on this
All right.
particular case. Yes.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Simmons? Thank you, Mr. Edelton, for saving the day. Does the petitioner have anything to say? I guess it's you guys in the orange shirts, right? Yeah, you need to come up. Sorry. Somebody needs to come up and tell us their name and
I'm Ann Cook.
get near the microphone, otherwise
I'm Ann Cook.
people on TV won't be able to hear you.
Right. I'm Ann Cook, and that's Dustin.
Dustin Polson.
As far as like the spillage, it's a very standard, it's a very complex tank. And if there happen to be, which is not gonna happen, any type of spillage or anything, we do keep things on hand close by your spill kit, of course. And we also have other products such as bicarbonate, which is to immediately clean up any type of spill so that way it will not go anywhere. at
Okay.
all. There's gonna be no big poof. Promise.
As
All
well,
right.
as well as they come and inspect the tank every time before they fill it up, as any hazards that would prolong the leakage of the chlorine.
Yeah, a death zone all
Yeah.
around it or something like that. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Does anybody from the public want to comment about this petition? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. For a motion or comments from the board, please. I have the ability to shock you all in your chairs.
I thought Stephanie was moving her
all
paper.
the motions.
You were moving the paper, so I assumed that was the motion.
Apparently, Mr. Hill is brave.
I move to approve petition PB 21000001, SUP with recommended staff conditions.
Second.
Okay, I think that's the actual petition number.
Oh, sorry.
That's all right. We got
LD
it.
230001.
We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Have at it. Mr. Castillo, would you get our next one?
Petition number 2023-536, LD 23-000009, a rezoning for Gainesville's car delivery. This is a request to rezone the subject property from mixed-use medium-density MU2 to automobile-oriented business BA. This is in association with petition number 2023-537, LD 23-000010, which is the land use amendment for the same property This is a petition, of course, to change the future land use designation of the subject property from mixed use medium, MUM, to commercial, C.
Mr. Simmons, you're back.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason Simmons, Department of Sustainable Development. Now, I have two presentations for both the zoning and the land use. They're similar, but they are a little bit different.
Okay. We'll start with the land use
Yeah,
and then,
this says
oh, it's
so I
got
don't know
this-
if they pulled up the wrong one.
No, the number, they gave the ZON 9 and the land use 10, and so it's in numerical order on the agenda.
okay,
But-
we'll start with whichever one you want.
Oh, sorry, I
Okay.
messed you up now.
Well, I can do the land use first, which is
That'll be fine.
typical,
You can do them together
traditional.
with the little additions that need to be done for the LDRs. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the request of this petition is to amend the existing land use designation and associated with that, rezone the subject property to allow a vehicle sales dealership to be established. The subject property has a future land use designation of mixed use medium. The current zoning designation of the property is mixed use 2. And so with this land use amendment, the applicant requests to change the land use of the property to commercial. These are just some general street views of some of the property. Now, this is along North Main Street by the Safe Light Auto Glass Repair business, sort of showing, this one. Sort of showing and I'll get into this soon, showing where one of the vacated streets is located. Here you just see a shot of the entrance into the existing vehicle sales business on North Main. Now this property, the main part of that dealership is already zoned BA, but it is part of the overall development for the applicants, which is why it's included. It will be part of the overall development plan. This is a shot on, I believe that's Fifth Terrace. At some point, it's hard to see here, but there is the warehouse building that's not part of this development. It's located here, and past that property line for this business, that street has also been vacated. And then this is just showing an overall aerial of the area. This is 23rd Avenue, and you see a lot of the automobile-oriented businesses that are located in this vicinity. So this is a small-scale land use change, as it's about 5.2 acres in size for the full or portion of 5 parcels. It's sort of off, even though the application or the overall development will include the existing vehicle sales located here. The bulk of the property that would be developed is sort of back behind it, located in this area. So that address, the 2403 Northeast Fifth Terrace, is for, I believe, this parcel here. The land use is mixed use medium. The zoning currently is mixed use 2. And the request is to amend the land use designation of the subject property from mixed use medium to commercial. You see the current used car lot in front is it's currently commercial land use. And you see this is what's proposed here. All of this shaded area or hatched area would become commercial. So we review land use amendments, looking at land use change criteria. In section 30-3.13 of, we look at things like the goals, objectives, and policies of the comprehensive plan, the need for additional land in the proposed land use category, the proposed land use category of the property in relationship to surrounding properties and similar properties, and the potential impact of the land use change on adopted level of service standards. This is just a description from the future land use element of what the commercial land use category is. It identifies those areas most appropriate for large-scale, highway-oriented commercial uses. And then the land development regulations would determine the appropriate scale of uses depending on the location of the subject property. This category is not appropriate for neighborhood centers. And importantly, under Objective 4.2, you have Policy 4.2.4 that notes that the city shall continue to restrict auto sales and relatively intense auto service to North Main Street, north of 16th Avenue. So this area is in compliance with the wishes of the city to encourage automobile-oriented development in this corridor. And down here you just have some numbers concerning the amount of commercial acreage in the city, the total number of acres, how much is occupied, and how many vacant acres are currently available. So this is an aerial shot of the subject properties that would have the land use changed. The property has access to public facilities and services. GRU services are available to the general area. Any future development on the property will require water and wastewater capacity evaluations that determine if off-site upgrades will be required. The stormwater and transportation facility level of service standards are assessed during a specific development plan review if the development is proposed in the future. And the adequate facilities and services have to be in place before a final development order is issued for any kind of development that's proposed. So for this land use recommendation, staff is recommending approval of petition LD 23-000010. We find that the proposal meets the land use criteria as outlined in the code and in the comprehensive plan. We find that what's proposed is compatible with the area, with adjacent uses in the general area, and we're recommending approval of this petition. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have at this time, or continue on to the zoning, or we have several representatives from the applicants who are here to make their own presentation.
Why don't we pause for a minute and see if anybody on the board has questions on your land use proposal? Seeing none, if it's all right with the petitioner, we'll let them speak when you're done with the LDRs.
Okay, so I guess the next presentation will be concerning LD 23-000009 ZON, which is the rezoning of that subject property from the mixed use 2 to BA, or automotive oriented business. in the same shots. You see the hatched area here, which is currently mixed use 1. By the way, I neglected to mention this earlier. You see on our city maps where you see the underlying what looks like right-of-way, but that right-of-way has been vacated since 1990. So the city maps for this area are currently not correct. The right-of-ways were actually vacated in 1990 per 3 separate ordinances, vacating this street here, and then here and here. So unfortunately, it will take some effort for our GIS to sort of correct the underlying base map to show that no, there is no right-of-way. It's not a paper street anymore. It's been vacated for many years. I believe the applicant's map, as far as showing what they want the land use and zoning to be, you see it reflected that it's all a solid piece. It's all under one ownership or on control anyway. So the other thing is the Safe Light auto glass business is located here. It's not part of any proposed car delivery center, future proposed development, but it is under the same ownership, or it's owned by the same person, and we didn't want to leave just one, lonely MU2 piece sitting there, so we recommended that they rezone that to the BA because the use is allowed by right in BA as well as the MU2. Here you see the proposal to rezone this to BA. The uses and intensities permissible within the BA district are compatible with uses and intensities of the surrounding zoning districts. And the property is located adjacent to MU2 zoning on the south and east, but you see all of this is BA and mixed use 2, so this is compatible with the existing pattern. We looked at this utilizing the rezoning criteria in section 30-3.14 and found that in your backup there's more discussion, but found that this is compatible and is in conformance with the rezoning criteria. Now, I included this because we're not reviewing a specific development plan, but the applicants did include a concept plan for what they had in mind as far as ultimately if they do construct the car delivery center. Again, this is just for information purposes. If the land use and zoning do go through, they'd be allowed to construct whatever the zoning district allows. But this is currently
But they'd still have to go through development review.
Yes.
Okay.
But this is the plan right now for the car, or at least the concept, or the general idea of what they want to do. So with that, staff recommends approval of petition LD 23-000009. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have, or can turn it over to the applicants who do have a presentation to make.
Thank you, Mr. Simmons. Questions for Mr. Simmons? Seeing none, have the applicant come up. It's a secret. Yeah.
Okay. See that on TV. The star is the.
Okay.
And then you just move forward or move back. I don't know if it's on yet, but
So this is the pointer, and that moves forward, and that moves back. Thank you.
I may be able to figure this out.
That's okay. We're with you on this.
Good evening. My name is Reggie Boutier, and I'm with Stearns Weaver Miller. There we go. So I'd like to introduce our team, and then I'm going to step down, and I'll kind of tell you how we're going to roll this out. But the developer is Seafried Properties. Clay Thompson is here, Adam Goldberg. I'm the legal counsel at Stearns Weaver Miller, and Kimley Horn is our planning and engineering consultant. Jose Lopez and Gene Lucido are here tonight as well. We've broken the presentation out trying to be efficient in light of the great work your staff has done in presenting the staff reports and their presentation nights. We're hopefully not going to be too redundant here. Mr. Thompson's going to get up and really tell you what more about Seafried as the developer, to give you more background, and talk about the proposed Tesla center that they want to develop and build here. And then Jose Lopez is going to come up and speak to some of the more details about it, and then I'm going to come back and close and be available to facilitate any questions. So with that, I'd appreciate if Clay Thompson could come, and I'll try to explain this too. So this is the pointer, the astro, and that goes forward.
In the middle.
That goes forward there.
Okay.
That's the
Thanks, Reggie. And thanks, board. I appreciate you allowing us to be here. I'm Clay Thompson. I help manage our acquisition and development efforts in Florida for Seafried. So I'll go through another few slides and just tell you a little bit more about the company as a whole. Seafried, we are a national company headquartered in Atlanta, but also have satellite offices in Chicago, Dallas, Phoenix, and LA. We went ahead and emphasized Florida too because we're very active across the state. In Jacksonville, Tampa, Orlando, Tallahassee, and then southeast and southwest Florida as well. So we're very active across the state, been here probably since 2010 and continue to be active today. Just a little company snapshot for the group here. We were started in 1984, so I've been in business for just around 39 years, specialize in development, leasing, and management of industrial and commercial real estate, 100% privately owned. We've developed over 200 million square feet nationally, and then also local to Atlanta, we lease and manage space as well. So just around 25 million feet. So active in all arms of development, but also management, leasing, et cetera. Local experience here in Gainesville. We've developed for the e-commerce giant Amazon for quite a while now. Obviously, we finished the Amazon last mile in 2021 here in Gainesville, so we know the area well, and it was a great experience here. We developed that with Kimley Horn as the civil designer who's plugged in on this project as well. Just some relationships that Seafried has and who we develop for. Obviously, I mentioned Amazon, but also do a lot of work with big retailers like Best Buy, Home Depot, PetSmart. And I would say we specialize in build-to-suit development, but also do a lot of speculative development. So through our build-to-suit expertise is kind of how we were brought into the Tesla program. I would say these type of facilities that we're proposing here in Gainesville are facilities that they're starting to develop and roll out across the country. A few in Florida have been some of the first ones, and they're also on the West Coast and trying to expand nationally. So with our national experience and then also our build-to-suit experience, we partnered up with Tesla nationally to bring us in, and then also in the state of Florida. We went ahead and also put a few different slides here just so you can get a better idea of what the facility is going to look like. There are a couple of facilities in Orlando, Jacksonville, and then one upcoming in Tampa as well. And we're building a similar prototype. Just a little bit about the facility. It's a delivery and service center. So obviously most of the vehicles are ordered online, and then they'll be shipped here, and then they can be picked up here. And then obviously if your vehicle needs service, you'll bring it to this facility as well. There's also a showroom at the front that you can see on the screen. So obviously they'll be showcasing the newest models, et cetera. So folks can obviously come in and see ultimately what the new models look like and how they're evolving. This is just another angle of the showroom, another iteration of that. And then also another angle of the showroom. And then on the fourth slide, we just did an elevation of the front, so you can kind of see the entrance. On the right-hand side of the elevation, you can see kind of where you drive in the service, and then there'll be another exterior door to drive out. So interior outside of the showroom, it's more of kind of a service area, and they're kind of a typical body shop, if you will, interior there. So that's kind of soup to nuts what the facility is like, and a little bit more about Seafried. And now I'll turn it over to Jose to tell you a little bit more about our application.
Good evening, Jose Lopez with Kimley Horn. So as Mr. Simmons stated in his presentation, we're doing seeking a small-scale comprehensive amendment going from mixed-use medium to commercial, and a rezoning from MU2 to automotive-oriented business. And this is just to facilitate the construction of a 50,000 square foot Tesla vehicle delivery center and service center. So Mr. Simmons did mention that we are kind of right smack in the middle of existing dealerships, so it fits with the existing development and what's going on along North Main Street. We've also highlighted the application boundary versus the project boundary. So the application boundary being in blue, the project boundary being in red. Took a couple snapshots of the existing car dealerships within the area just to show compatibility with our neighbors. A little bit more of the same. And this is just a zoomed in version. And as Mr. Simmons also alluded, we have the Safe Light Auto Glass included in our application. That's just to create a more unifying zoning and land use along Main Street. These 5 parcels are the ones included in our application, and once again, as Mr. Simmons alluded to, with the vacations Northeast 5th Terrace, Northeast 6th Street, and Northeast 26th Avenue, and I've provided the OR booking pages for reference. And these are the maps, and the proposed shows inclusive of the vacated right-of-ways for the comp plan amendment, and as far as the rezoning goes, the same thing. And then just a little illustration for your view and pleasure. Obviously, this is subject to development board review, but give you an idea of what we're looking for. And then with that, I'll turn it back over to Reggie.
Thank you, Jose. I want to go back and highlight some things in the conceptual plan before I go to the next slide. I want to make sure I'm doing it. All right, there we go. Okay, so one thing that's important to note on the conceptual plan, because it shows it's well, there's an area in the back corner here that are existing wetlands that will be buffered and conserved. There'll be no wetland impacts. And this is where the storm water will go, and it'll be heavily, see if I can get this right here. Heavily buffered from this property line. And when I get to the next slide, I may go back and forth here. So just wanted to highlight a few points that I think Mr. Simmons did a great job. But one really unique thing about the city of Gainesville is in your comprehensive plan, you've already told people where they need to put their auto centers. And so it's exactly where we're putting this. So it fits really nice and neat, exactly according to your comp plan. I thought that was probably the most persuasive policy that we could highlight, because we're right in the corridor where your comp plan wants us to be. I know Mr. Simmons noted that, but it's worth just emphasizing. So another interesting fact is that even though we're changing the comp plan on a portion of the site and rezoning it, the intensity between the different land use categories as far as FAR and height are the same. So we're not intensifying the site. We're just trying to allow to not only do the auto dealership, but also the service center, which was part of the conundrum that we had when we tried to put this property together. So going back to the point where I went to the conceptual site plan, I wanted to emphasize that we did a measurement where if you go, I'm going to go back to the site plan to show you this. So if we measured from this point, this line here, going this way, and go back to this slide, it's about 300 feet due east is the first residential multifamily building. And so that's a great distance, 300 feet. And we just wanted to, again, reaffirm the compatibility, that it's not only compatible with the uses surrounding it, but we're a great distance away from the closest residential use. And the back of our parcel is essentially buffered with a stormwater facility and preserved wetlands and landscaping. And of course, staff is recommending approval. Again, going back to the environmental side and constraints, we're preserving and protecting the wetlands. There's a unique overlay between the county and the city and how you buffer your wetlands. I think the city requires 50 feet and the county requires 100, so ultimately it's 100. So that's a pretty big buffer there. And another, maybe obvious, maybe not, is that, Tesla's producing electric cars, which is also promoting a more friendly option for the environment, just by virtue of the car that's being produced as compared to the traditional combustion engines. So one thing that we like to note is that we're going to create 50 plus permanent jobs. That might not seem like a lot compared to like the Amazon facility that you just saw, but for a Tesla center to come in just in this area to produce 50 plus permanent jobs, I think is a really positive thing for the city. Of course, there'd be tax revenue increases, but we did some research just to get some statistics for you, which we thought were interesting. So the projection on Tesla owners in this region and the immediately surrounding areas by the end of 2024, I don't know how they track this, but they've tracked about 5,200 Tesla owners. Right now, none of those owners have a place to go except Jacksonville or Orlando. And, the statistics are going to continue to increase as time goes on for electric vehicles, including Teslas. And as Clay mentioned, Tesla is rolling out nationwide a more aggressive plan to create these service centers and delivery centers. So Gainesville was one of Tesla's major targeted areas. So this will be a really a good news for Tesla owners in Gainesville and the surrounding area, so they don't have to drive so far to get their car serviced. And again, like I said, we didn't want to be redundant with Mr. Simmons' presentation, and we're available to answer any questions you may have, and we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions from the board for the applicant? Seeing none, are there any comments from the public on this petition? Y'all have already commented, so I guess we're good. Seeing no comments from the public, I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the board for a motion or conversation.
Yes.
Mr. Hill.
So I just wanted to say that I think, I support these applications. It's consistent with the development pattern in the area, the future land use map, the zoning map. There's a comp plan policy that clearly states this is where this type of use should go. I just think in general, moving forward, when we, as a community, identify that we're in a housing crisis, taking any lands entitled for residential property off the map is not something I'm super stoked about, but something for us to consider in all these types of applications in the future. But that's it.
Anybody else? Anybody have a motion? We need a two-part motion, please. One for the land use and one for the LDR.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Hill.
I move this, so is it LD 23's 10 is the land use. I move to approve petition LD 23000010 land use map amendment.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. If you'd like to go ahead and.
Sure.
LDR?
Yep. Make a motion to approve petition or move to approve petition LD 23000009.
We have a motion to approve the LDR petition. Do we have a second? We have a second from Ms. Sutton. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know all my Tesla owners, friends, will be delighted to have you in town.
People will be very excited.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if your car's got an issue, drive it to
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That concludes our agenda for the evening. Do we have any member comment?
I have a comment, if possible. Just curious, Mr. Castillo, has the city commission or the plan board, before my tenure, I guess, been briefed on the Live Local Act and its potential impact on commercial and industrial lands? Because that impacts affordable housing, and since we're having these conversations anyway, I think, you know, it would be nice to know all about the legislative changes recently.
Sure. As far as I know, I haven't seen a formal briefing on that.
Mr.
and-
Edelton just beat it, so.
8:30.
Yeah, I haven't seen.
We will request that we be briefed on that.
Yeah, if possible. I think that'd be really great. It's a really big change to the legislature and how affordable housing is done in the state. So, yeah, I think it's important.
Yeah, okay. Any other comments from the board? Mr. Nay, you look like you're about to
Yeah,
pop.
I was gonna ask, do we have things, I'm not gonna be here probably at the next meeting, and I just wanted to make sure we have a quorum, because this band, the Bests, are playing.
Well, I'll tell you, we're pretty thin. If you don't come, and they
I
don't
mean, I
get
could
some.
come to start, but I bought tickets to see the Best, this band from New Zealand, I'm sorry. And it's like, I bought it months ago, and I just.
Well, make sure you keep Mr. Castillo informed so he can do a quorum check. I mean, we have 4, and theoretically, the city commission is going to at least, I think Juan said they're gonna vote on those 4 applicants sometime this month, right? Okay.
But those
Right.
people won't be able to vote unless
Well, and-
staff recommends that they waive the
That's what
non-voting.
and why don't you do that at the time that they're voting on it, is request that they waive the 60-day period.
There is the commission asked staff to bring something forward concerning that as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
From now on.
right. We're amending it. And something also to note for next, of course, this can change, but just to let you know, so far, I think we've only had 1 item going for June 22nd, but of course, that can change.
All right.
So my people should. It's not till 8:30.
No, I wouldn't count on it.
Thank you, Mr. Nay. Any other member comment? Now we can.
Now Edelton shows up.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I think just it being summer, we just need to, I don't have any attendance issues, but if anybody else has, vacations and things.
Yeah, we
Be
need,
proactive about, yeah, so I appreciate you bringing that up today.
right.
And letting staff know in advance, so we all don't show up here and then
And-
not
and-
be able to do anything.
And I would like staff to encourage the city commission to stress that showing up is key for us. We've had way too many people who don't come. And so, don't join if you can't come. Okay.
Yeah, like who's gonna make that?
Yeah. Okay, I declare us adjourned.